Hey guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abkary and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi, how are you? How's your week been? I missed you guys last week. I was sorry about that. I was just feeling really overwhelmed. I was this whole podcast is like a labor of love, and I was like getting the episodes together, and I didn't have a guest lined up, and I was just like, and I had all this Halloween stuff coming up. It was just a really like stressful, overwhelming week, and it's like the first week I've missed in like a year and a half, and I'm really sorry about that if you were missing out on it. But we're back now. We're doing the damn thing now. I've done a bunch of shows. I was Teen Wolf for Halloween. I didn't fully commit to the costume though because I couldn't get the facial hair right. So I was like, I decided I was Teen Eastern Bloc exchange student Wolf. I had real thick eyebrows and it was fun. It was good. Got a lot of compliments on it. Had a really good set that night. I was like, maybe this is my thing. Maybe this is my comedy gimmick. I'm crushing right now. So yeah, I did because we did a show on Halloween night. Very disappointed with the other comedians. Like Halloween was on a Thursday night, a night we don't normally do comedy. And my co-producer Danny's like, I want to do a Halloween show. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, what are we dressing up as? He's like, oh, I'm not dressing up. I'm like, what the hell? Why are you? No, like this is so. I was the only comic that dressed up like an idiot, but I don't know. I had fun. And it was a good time. And I hope your Halloween was good too. Hope you got lots of candy. I was pretty good. I didn't eat too much candy. Abby went trick-or-treating with her mom this year, and I had to do that show. But I don't know. I went trick-or-treating with them last year, like her mom and like all of her friends and her stepdad and everything. And again, we're trick-or-treating. I'm the only adult that's dressed up. I feel like an idiot. And I don't even think Abby noticed I was there. And I was like, are you really going to miss me if I don't go trick-or-treating with you this year? And she was like, I could care less, Dad. It's fine. I was like, thank God. Whew. She hit her first home run at a softball game a couple of weeks ago. She's pretty stoked about that. I got to have her on to talk about that. Yeah, she's crushing it right now. She's doing great. Third grade. She's owning the third grade. So that's good. Got a bunch of fun shows coming up. I'll be going up to Santa Cruz here real soon. I'll keep you guys posted on that if you want to come out to a comedy show. Again, we're doing it 5 nights a week in the greater Fresno Clovis area. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. Wednesdays are super fun out in the Tower District. If you can't make it all the way out to Clovis, you can come out to a comedy show. A lot of funny people. Bringing a lot of funny people out here. So do that. And then, let's talk about today's guest. Because you guys haven't had a sad dad in a while, and I got a nice long one for you. We went a sad dad, one of those sad dad XL episodes, like the big and tall store episodes. It's good. A real funny man named Dustin David. He's out of LA originally, from Maine. We talk a lot about that and get into some really fun, introspective dad stuff. Talk a little bit about his sobriety and what that means and to him and what that looks like, and that's always interesting for me. Somebody who I would say I have a drinking problem, I suppose, but it's never been super self-destructive, but I could see how it could get there. and so it's really, I was really grateful for David sharing or Dustin sharing his story with me. And it's a really interesting, really, I think empowering in a lot of ways too, because it's a lot of like self-reflection and we'll get into all that on the episode. So cool. Let's do it, guys. Without further ado, here we go. Dustin David. All right, cool. Yeah, slide those headphones on there. You're golden. When was the last time you were up here? When was that?
I think I got like a Facebook reminder that was like, man, do you remember when? I think it was around this time last year.
Was it really? Yeah. I feel like you always come up with the best times, like when it's not hot.
Yeah, it was cool last time we came up too.
Yeah. That's good.
Drove up and then I can't remember if we drove back after the last show.
Yeah, because you came up with Sovereign.
Yeah.
I don't remember either. I don't know.
I feel like we came up on like a Friday. We drove Friday, did Friday night, Saturday, and then I think we came back Saturday night.
I was at the Cursed Cigar Show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get sick at that show? A few of our headliners got really sick at the cigar shop.
I didn't. I think I smoked a cigar. So I was like, I'm used to.
I think that was the
more
trick.
than I am air.
Like, because I felt kind of queasy the first time we did it. Yeah. And then the second time I actually had a cigar while I was in the cigar place. Yeah. And it's like weird, like immunity.
Yeah, I think it was like a filter, like with the air.
Yeah, I just got used to it. Like it's well, that's good. And we've had fun this morning. We went and got breakfast. Yeah.
That place is great.
Yeah, Benediction.
If you pitch it on this, do they?
I should
give you credit?
I should see if they'd sponsor the show.
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't.
Yeah, I should talk to them about it. Hey, I got a podcast with literally dozens of listeners.
You're like, in addition to the punch card, I've also been doing ads for it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Whether you know it or not. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And you actually like took my suggestion. Like a lot of comedians are like, no, I'm going off the beaten path. You were like, no. What Dave says.
Yeah, you know. It's like going to Paris and being like, wow, so much food, so much gold. Is that a McDonald's? Is that the thing that I know? I'm from Paris. You got to go to this cheese place. It's amazing. Kind of in the mood for a Whopper. Like, who is doing that?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. And then you mixed a match too. It was, you even did that. Oh
man, it was killer.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like they overcooked my bacon. I don't really like bacon that charred.
I like it charred to the bone.
Yeah, I feel like that's a weird thing. I was thinking about that as I was like crunching on this like charred bacon because I like it a little wiggly. Like but like if you're a total wuss if you like your steak well done. But if you like your bacon a little raw, people are like, oh, you're what kind of man are you if you like raw bacon? Yeah.
It's the consistency of the fat. I think that like there's a period where like I was a vegan, I didn't eat like any meat, and I was like, cool, just like no dairy, no cheese, anything, just all vegan stuff.
Yeah. And
I think it was the like period of time where I was like, I can separate this from like it at one time being an animal.
Yeah.
I'm like, if it's charred, I was like, what is this? Jerky? What even is that?
Right.
This could be anything.
Yeah.
But like, if I can see the fat, I'm like, that was part of a thing.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah. So you're a vegan? How'd that go? Like, it's such a lifestyle.
I was a vegan for months. And there was also a time in
for
that
hours.
Yeah, many minutes I was a vegan. Well, I was hanging out with this girl at the time, and she was a vegan. She's like, yeah, it's a thing that I do. And I was like, oh, I'll try to do that too.
Yeah.
And then I did that, and then she was like, smoking's gross. I was like, I don't smoke anymore.
Yeah.
And I wasn't smoking. I was a vegan. I was off caffeine.
Wow.
A lot of things, because like, and it had come from like I'd just been sober for a year.
Right.
I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
I was it was just me walking around having like all the emotions at the same time.
I feel everything.
It's crazy. It is a wild ride.
What do you even do with your hands? I don't know.
I was just like, I'm one with the earth. Like you just, you're like, a flower is beautiful, but it will die. Like you're just so happy and sad.
Oh wow!
And it's just trying to process it just became like too much.
Sure.
And I think I ate a bacon cheeseburger, and then I was like, well, we could do meat again. And then I think it was like I smoked a cigarette, and then I started smoking again.
Yeah.
And then, I think those are the two things I went back on. And then at some point I had like a cup of coffee, and I was like, we're just not drinking. We're not drinking. We're not doing drugs. This will be enough.
What is that part of? I mean, do you have to have some kind of like a reward system? You know what I mean? Like, is it? I mean, because it just seems like, but it also seems too like you could almost achieve a weird like Zen high too. You know, where I don't know. I mean, what were your thoughts on all that?
I mean, I feel like part of it's like just like levels of like self-avoidance, where it's like, this is like the truth of who I am present and I am that.
Yeah.
And for a while I can go, I'm like, oh, these are just things that I don't think about. And then in terms of like any sort of like outside thing, you're like, I have to decide and feel and think. And it becomes like too much. Like
Right.
I was off cigarettes for a while, and then I think it was last Halloween. I hadn't had any nicotine for a while, and it was like a pre-Halloween party, and we were hanging out, and my friend's girlfriend, she drank. He was sober, so like everybody was drinking, hanging out. It wasn't triggered or anything, but I was like, I can have fun at a party. Yeah. I'm cool.
Right.
And I like smoked a cigarette, and I was like, I feel so sick. Like I think I'm gonna throw up. And then I just thought about that for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, I was like, I'll just buy a pack. It's Halloween.
Yeah.
And then I was smoking again. But there was also some sort of outside, like somebody I really cared about was sick at the time, and I had to deal with that.
Right.
And I didn't see it until months later, where I was like, why would I? And I was like, oh, you're having a lot of feelings about like somebody that you cared about being not well.
Yeah.
And didn't process that, didn't put two and two together. I was like, it's too much. Like, you just can't hang, dude. I just got to, like, this is as good as I can do right now.
Right.
And that's fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, because like, even then, it's like, yeah, but it's just cigarettes. It's not like it's not like you're shooting heroin in a bathroom, gas station bathroom.
Yeah,
so.
it's like a lesser of evils. And stuff,
right. Yeah, so I can kind of see how it's almost like an acceptable, like, oh, if this is off the rails, like this is okay.
Yeah. And I've gone back and forth, and I remember there've been times before when I'd quit, and there wasn't any like self-forgiveness. It was being really hard on myself for doing that.
Yeah.
It was like, it wasn't like, all right, I'm gonna be smoking right now, it's fine. It was like I'd smoke a cigarette and be like, oh, you fucking piece of shit, you're worthless. I can't believe you're doing this again.
That's where I'm at right now. Like, and I was telling you last night, like the gal I'm dating right now, she smokes cigarettes, but it's like she's like a chain smoker. Like she'll have like 3 a day, and like I take that trigger and just run with it. Like I'm just, it's like
I turn on the machine and I'm like, yeah.
It's like, this feels good. Yeah.
I didn't understand addiction until I started quitting smoking. Because like drinking, I was like, very clearly like drinking is ruining my life, making me miserable.
Yeah.
And then when I was able to like stop doing that, like with a group of people that also don't do this, like, hey, we don't do this. This is how we don't do this. And I was like, great, I need cigarettes. Like I got to do that.
Yeah.
And then after I started getting sober for a few years, like the guys who'd been sober for a long time were like, well, that's the next thing. They're like, once you get real, once you're hanging around, they're like, you'll quit eventually. Like, that'll happen. And so I was like, well, I'll think about it. And I would stop for a little bit, and I was like, oh, I feel pretty good. And it would ramp up to the level of like, I'd watch myself just walk in and buy cigarettes and smoke. And I was like, I don't even want to do this. Like, what is happening? And I was like, oh, that's what fucking addiction, like, holy shit. Like, I didn't get it.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's weird too. Like, I mean, it like addiction, just the idea, the concept, the brain chemistry that is addiction. I mean, I feel like that probably like served us well at one point. Like in like our evolution. Like if you were addicted to Mastodon, you're just fucking like jonesing for a Mastodon.
Gotta get those bones, man. How's the spears coming along, man?
Yeah,
did you make that spear yet?
Just fucking the front of the pack, just fucking spearing Mastodons, and like everybody gets a piece that you're feeding the village, or like you're just fucking gathering berries like a maniac. And like I feel like there was
the first guy's like addicted to berries. Like, that's pretty good. You know what'd be good? More. I'm sick. Oh, more berries, please.
And so it's like, it just feels like this. I mean, it's wholly unnecessary, but I feel like it's definitely something that would have done well by us at some point.
Yeah, it's just like the best way I've found to describe it for me, like in my experience, is like, a lot of people can drink normally. I don't know if I ever could. Like the first time I drank, I blacked out. Whoa. Like I was like, we got to do that again.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, being like teen angst and having the feeling. I was like, this makes the feelings go away. I'll keep doing this. And then, there'd be times when if I went out and had like a couple beer, like people are like, oh, can't you have like a beer? I'm like, no, because I don't have the governor that most people have.
Right.
Where I can go to a bar and realize like most people are drinking normally. Yeah. They can have like 2 or 3 beers, have a great time, great, call it a night. It doesn't work like that because once my defenses get lowered after I have a drink, there's no off switch.
Right.
It's just like, And it's a subtle justification of just like, well, I'll just have another one.
Yeah,
but
right.
that doesn't stop. Like, there's no machine that goes. Like, if the defense are lowered enough from the first one, there's no other, like, mechanism to be like, two's good, a little tipsy. Like, it's just like, let's burn it to the ground.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing, like, because I just got off, like, doing a sober October, and it was like, I don't know, like, for a while I was like, this didn't do anything for me. Like, why did, like, and it's not like I didn't have the shakes, like, or anything like that. Like, I don't know that I'm necessarily, like, addicted to alcohol chemically. Like, I don't, I think it's more of a habitual thing for me. But I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like I got anything out of this sober October. I did it last year, and I kind of did. Like, I had, like, some, like, real self-realizations, and then, like, just proving to myself that I could do it. Right. This year, I was like, it wasn't as rewarding or fulfilling for me until I started drinking again. And like I drank, I got pretty buzzed one night. I went to bed, and then I woke up at like 4:30 in the morning, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And like I was like, oh, it was really like affecting, because I remember like before I did that sober October, that like the months leading up to it, I would always need a nap. Like I was like, I'm in my 30s now. The 30-year-olds, like people in their 30s, just need naps. And then I stopped drinking, and like, I didn't take any naps. Like, I'm like, oh, this is weird, like how it was affecting my life without me even like realizing it,
I'm the inverse. So I didn't start taking naps until I got sober. I was like, life is just fucking a lot. It's take about 20 recharge.
Yeah.
I actually haven't. My work schedule is such now where it's not really conducive to taking a nap. But I realized that I hadn't really had like the want or the desire to take a nap when I started meditating.
Oh, interesting.
Like which I forgot to do today, but I do.
Oh no! yeah.
I'll probably do it after this.
Fresno is just a hive of debauchery.
Nobody's meditating. That's as bad as it gets me. I forget a meditation. But it was like 20 minutes in the morning and then 20 minutes in the afternoon, just to kind of like recharge and like doing transcendental meditation, like going through the center and learning how to do that.
Yeah.
It's the craziest thing internally. Mm-hmm. I feel like it has changed nothing.
Oh, okay.
Externally, it's changed everything.
Oh, wow.
Like I've found that like I just have been booked on more stuff and like stuff that I wanted to do, or like opportunities have presented themselves.
Yeah.
And they like talk about it as a way of like it clears out stress through processing thoughts. Processing thoughts is difficult because the thoughts are the meditation. So when I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm just thinking about shit the whole time, and it didn't stop, and like it gets uncomfortable, and I'm like, I'm wasting my time. The uncomfortability is like your body processing like stress and working it out through just whatever weird shit you just think about. And it's not, and it's non-judgment. It's not right or wrong to think about things that you're thinking about. It just is what it is.
Right.
But the more I can like force myself to like sit for like the 20 minutes and just let these things process out, been doing it for a few months, and I think the last month, most of the time that I meditate, I'll start crying.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's not how you picture crying, like in a movie, like, oh my God, I'm so... And I could be thinking about some unrelated thing, and like tears will just form and then start... And initially I was like, oh, it's because I left my contacts in. They're just dry, and they're too dry.
You're trying to be a man.
Literally never happened before. I'm like, the contact. And then one morning I woke up, I hadn't put my contacts in, and then I was like, oh, it's my It's not. Those are your eyes. Your eyes are crying.
You're feeling feelings. Like, no.
Yeah, I went to my meditation teacher, and I was like, hey, my eyes are like leaking water. Like, what is that? And she's like, that's crying. It's okay to do that. And I was like,
you child.
Yeah. I'm like, but why would I be? I'm not thinking about anything sad or necessarily anything happy.
Yeah.
I was like, it doesn't make any sense. And she's like, well, it's part of it is, think about all the times when you've wanted to and haven't been able to cry. It's your body like letting go of that.
Whoa. Yeah.
And I was like, oh. So, just crying every day.
Yeah. You're just like...
through just closing your eyes.
Yeah, you're just like, you just have like a backlog of cries that like you're just sort of...
So, and you can't tie the thoughts to what, because it's unrelated and you don't know what it is or why you're doing it. It could be grief, it could be joy or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just happening.
Oof.
it's like happening to me. And like it's that like masculine thing where sometimes I'm like, I don't know, thinking about baseball when I was crying. Like I don't know what it was. I had a whole meditation one time that was a scenario that played out like a movie, like an updated version of Rookie of the Year, where I was just, they were like, we need you to throw this baseball, and I could do it like psycho fast, and they were like, I got to sign you to a baseball team, and then it was like the rise, and I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm pitching a movie to myself in the meditation. Is that okay? It's just like, you're being creative. Like that's a creative thing when you're thinking. Daydreaming is a normal thing to have in meditation, and it's fine. Anything you're thinking about is fine.
Right. And it seems like too, like that plays into, I think it's something that like a lot of comedians feel, but it's like that whole like imposter syndrome, people are gonna find me out, like I'm not, they're gonna realize I'm not as talented as I am, and I shouldn't be where I am, and like that's what the whole, that's what I felt like Rookie of the Year was like a metaphor for. It's like, like it was a whole like imposter syndrome thing that I feel like a lot of really funny people like deal with, and
I feel like, I probably brought this up last time we did a podcast together, but I always had the theory that like, I feel like you do comedy for a long enough period of time, it ceases to be a thing that you do, and it becomes a mental illness where you're like, I need to do this. Like this is an untreated thing, and I treat it with comedy.
Right. Yeah, and you're not even sure. And
can I stop at this point?
Well, yeah.
Like, there's no end game.
And if you kind of like compare it to like other addictions, like like drinking, like can ruin your family life, your social life, and comedy ruins your family life, ruins your social. It's like, what am I doing here, telling dick jokes and not spending time with my kid? Like why am I doing this? And why? And like I can find a million justifications for it too. Like.
But it's, I think there's part of it is, can be finding the balance and like finding balance life between comedy and life and doing life stuff and showing up for that. Right. Because there was definitely a time when I was like, it's just comedy. That's it. This is what we do. We're comedians. And like, felt like I had to slug it out 2-3 shows a night. Like, just crazy, like not, having any self-awareness about like my mental health or how much I was drinking or what was going on. I was like, this is the number one most important. If I get this, there's a goal. Like if I do this, if I get the money, I can be done. Right. But like, I don't think that's gonna happen. Sure. But it, having changed the way that I think about it and the relationship I have with comedy, like I force myself to do normal stuff. Sure. And I'm like, you can do it under the guise of you're just observing this normal thing as a comedian. Right, yeah. Like,
that comedian filter over life.
And but it forces myself to do stuff like, I got to go to the Grove and hang out because this is what normal people do. Yeah. And it's, enriched my life a lot, I think, finding things that I enjoy doing, like going to movies with the friends, like taking time out to do that. Yeah. Or taking, like, a few nights off comedy, I'm like, I need to, there's a show I want to watch. And I can sit down and watch the show and not, like, just put the self-flagellation, like, whip down where I'm not watching the show the whole time thinking, should have gone to the club, man. Like, should have been hanging out. It's just sitting there like, oh, you piece of shit, you should have done it. It's like I'm enjoying the time that I'm spending with myself.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I mean, the real reality is like more of that like life experience only ends up lending itself to comedy. You know what I mean? Like, like a lot of times I feel like I haven't written a new joke in so long or a new bit in so long. It's like, but what have I been doing? Like all I've been doing.
What's the new thing?
Yeah. Like I've been hanging out with comedians and going to comedy shows. That's all I've been doing. Yeah. And the reality is that's the worst way to write jokes.
Like, because comics aren't relatable to people. We're relatable to comics. Yeah.
And so you gotta fucking do that shit with like, your regular friends and like go on a road trip or go to Yosemite or whatever the fuck. Like you just need to like live a life. And like I find that when I take a week away from it, like I come back and I'm like, I got all these things I want to say.
Right. Yeah. The way that we process things like as comics. Yeah. Like there's a comic right now, Amelia Barros, who's one of my favorite comics right now. absolutely so funny. She does a show called Just Trying to Make Friends, where the premise is she met a girl and they were like trying to be friends with each other, and they're like, we don't know how to do this. And so they started the show where she's like not a comic, she was like a magician or something. And like, we'll do it, we'll get our people together, and it's become this huge show, and it's a big backyard thing.
Oh, cool.
It's so great. They book killer comics, and I saw her do a set on the show, and dude, mind blowing. She's doing a set about like Mount Rushmore and like national parks.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it's killer funny.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's doing this material and making it this funny?
Yeah.
And I was like, God, it's so refreshing just to watch. Like, oh, wow, what a new perspective on this like seemingly thing that's just there. Like, it's like, oh my God. So I was like, it was ripe for parody. Like, it's been there the whole time.
I've been staring at it. Abe Lincoln's dumb face. It's been there.
It's up there. Just talk about sculptor. Like, dude, killed me. So
that's
funny.
great.
Yeah.
You grew up in Maine.
It did.
What's that like?
But it was cold.
Was it?
And yeah, that's the number one thing.
What kind of growing up? Like what kind of kid
cold.
are you growing up? Are you? I mean, were you into sports? Were you like a real? Were you a good student? Were you?
None of them.
No.
I feel like that's what my folks wanted.
Sure.
Just to have like a normal one. Not what they got.
Yeah.
I was real into my own thing, hanging out, doing Legos, love Legos.
Yeah.
I could build Legos by myself and make like a little world. I had a rich imagination life growing up. My brother and I were pretty close. We're pretty close in age. We're about 2 years apart. And we grew up in this island, on Cousins Island in Maine. And there's like a huge bridge that like links to the Maine. So I don't know if that's what makes it not an island.
Oh, interesting.
But like as a kid, you're not crossing the bridge. Like you're not.
Yeah, right.
And you could just bike around, and stick fights, and fall. There's leaves, and it's summer. Or you get to play outside. And snow and shoveling snow.
Yeah,
it was great, and we just had a lot of like sun was up. It was like outside, doors closed. Outside all day.
Yeah.
Sun's down, door open, come in the house.
Right.
There was no, anything else. It's just you're on an island. You're screwing around, and I'd be with my brother and I'd try to make up games and stuff. One of the funniest games I remember coming up with was literally that thing where you had a cardboard box and then you made it a thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't have like a ton we had like some Ninja Turtles, and we're like, cool, but we also have like a stick game going on outside, so it's whatever.
Yeah.
But we had a cardboard box and I cut a hole in the side of it, and I'd rest my arm out of the thing. It was called Tollbooth. And I'd sit out, I'd just wait, and my little brother would pretend to be in a car, and he would walk around, and he'd go, I'd like to get through that, and I'd go, you don't have enough. And he would go, oh, here it is. Like no money, no currency, no real things were being exchanged. And then he'd go, oh, let me get it. And then I'd go, yeah, buddy, you still don't have enough to get through the. You got to back up. I don't know what to tell you. You can't get through the. People are trying to get into the. And he'd get just frustrated and couldn't get through. It's just me in a box being a dick. Like that was our whole relationship. Me setting him up for an imaginary failure.
We call this dick in a box. Is what we call this.
Sorry, pal. Can't help you.
And is it and like growing up? I mean, are there like a lot of other kids, or is it just your brother and you? Like,
we had some neighbor kids that lived around us, and they all had older brothers, and so they were kind of known as like the bad kids.
Ooh.
Which I didn't know. My dad was just like, you can't hang out with them because they're bad kids. They do. And I don't know what that meant. I don't know if it was fear or whatever.
Sure.
Their older brothers were probably into some crazy shit. I have no idea.
Yeah.
We were just kids. I just know we like weren't supposed to hang out. So we get to like sit together in the bus. And but yeah, really into like my own world.
Yeah.
And I feel like ever since a young age, my dad kind of forced us to play a sport. It was like, you got to find something. Like initially, before you're old enough to be like, don't want to do it, not fun. No, you had to play baseball, you had to play soccer, and I remember because my dad was like sports star, varsity lettered, every sport, killer, just like written up as this god, like in these local papers about like being like the sports hero. He was on the front page of the paper because he switched sports. They're like baseball star tries soccer, like, and he's like, what? Like, I don't remember the picture, but I want it to be him holding a bat and a soccer ball, like with a goofy. What do I do? It wasn't that. I think it was like a headshot kind of a thing.
That's funny. Yeah.
But I was like, there's no way you can live up to that. So why would you try?
Right.
Like the bar set so high. Like, what's the point? I'm not going to be that, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
I was like, I like drawing.
Yeah.
I like doing that. I always knew ever since I was little, because of my dad actually, that I wanted to do comedy.
Oh, interesting.
Because he would watch stand-up comedy all the time. Uh-huh. And I remember when I was a kid, I was like hiding by the couch, and I'm watching like a comic on TV, and he's like dying laughing. Which is the thing I'd never seen my dad laugh about anything, or even like smile really. Anything that was like, this is a thing that I enjoy. And I'd watch him, and I remember one time he caught me, he was like 8. And I was like, huh? Oh. And he was like, yeah, come on. And it was like late. I was supposed to be in bed, and we like watched comedy.
Oh, wow.
And then the more I'd watch comedy with him, the more I'd remember the jokes. So he'd watch a comic, and on the commercial, I'd stand in front of the TV, and I'd tell him back the jokes that I could remember that we saw from the thing.
Yeah.
And then he'd die laughing. And I didn't know why, but as I'm like a kid doing an adult themed joke, like I could see it would be really funny I'm a child being like, yeah, my wife's a bitch, my kids are crazy. My dad losing his mind. And I'm not even processing why it's funny. I'm like, why doesn't he love his family? Like, I don't get it. But I knew, and I remember watching it and being like, Dad, what is this guy doing? And he's like, well, he's a comedian. And I was like, no, like, what does he do for work? Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, that's his job. And I was like, that looks like pretty easy job.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can't make a lot of money. He's like, no, he makes a lot of money. And I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no other job for me.
Wow.
No other thing that I want to. I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I would go to school as a testing ground for just like jokes.
Just running bits on your friends and stuff. Yeah.
But it was tough because I didn't have a lot of friends, and trying to do like Richard Pryor, like on a playground to a kid, I was like known as the weird kid for a long time until I could get the structure of a joke long enough where I could write my own stuff. Like, so I'd be in history class, and then I'd use the rule of threes. So I'd wait for 2 serious questions, and then I would ask a joke question. Big laugh, teacher. And so they'd be like, he's very attentive in class. I'm like, yeah, because you got to pay attention to rip on it. They're like, but he never turns in his material. He's not done homework assignment 1.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I got through school.
That's wild.
Was being attentive and like jokey.
Yeah.
And like just trying to be like a nice kid in general. And every teacher just kept saying like, I'm going to let you go on to the next grade, but it's not going to be like this next year. Like,
right.
Next year.
It's
the 4th grade.
The 4th grade is brutal. Yeah.
3rd grade is a cakewalk. 4th grade, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And dude, 5th, 6th, 7th, all the way through high school.
I'll
let you, but next year, until it was, I was graduating high school, and they're like, you're going to graduate.
Dude,
but when you get into the real world, you can't be out there telling jokes. And I was like, I'll fucking show you. That's what you think, idiot. You know there's a job?
That's like, I mean, I experienced a lot of that too, where I kind of, like even my senior year, like I somehow ended up in like an AP economics class. And it was just it was all my friends in the class. All my friends were so smart. I was not. I just kind of like gave the illusion of smart. And I remember like I didn't turn in, my best friend and I, he and I were both fuck ups. And he and I didn't turn in any work the entire like semester. And like we like just, and like literally it was like the entire class was A's. And then two D's. Like it was me and my buddy Isaac. And like we like might not graduate because of this. And we were like, Mr. Farley, look, listen, man, everybody else has got an A. Just give us an A. And he's like, I can't give you A's. You didn't turn in any work. I'll give you B's. And I'm like, And they just changed our grades to B's. And I was like, well, this shouldn't be how the world works. Like, but it's just like when you're just that charming and funny and nice, like, people.
I love your negotiation skills where you go, we'll shoot for an A. He'll pitch a C. We'll talk him up to a B. You're like, fucking took a B?
Yeah. Why did you bring an agent? Who is this guy? You're a high school senior.
Talk to my guy. He takes 10% of my grades. He'll talk you up.
He gets a half a grade.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. So what was the point at which you were like, you knew what you wanted to do. What was the point that you actually did it? Like, what was your first open mic?
In Maine, where I started, there was no open mics. It was just a club. And so the only way to get in was to do it through the club. And I got a job packing lobsters on a wharf in Maine. And at the end of the wharf is where I packed lobsters. And at the top of the wharf is where the comedy club was. The Portland, Maine Comedy Connection, which I think was like an offshoot of the Boston Comedy Connection. And I just drive by it. I started there when I was 15, and I drove by it every day. And I was like, someday I'm going to walk in there and tell jokes. And then I go to work, pack lobsters. And then, got to a pretty gnarly suicide attempt that sort of drove me to it.
Oh, wow.
Where all my friends had gone away to school. I was like alone, packing lobsters.
It's me and the lobsters now.
Yeah, I'd wake up. It was dark. Go to work all day, wouldn't see anybody. There'd be one boat that came in. They would leave. It'd be dark. I'd go home. And I just remember being dark for just like, I was like, what is happening? I just got into this gnarly depression.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way out. All my friends forgot about me because there was no social media at the time.
Right.
So you don't connect with people and can kind of have, fantasy, like social life where like, oh, people are doing things. I'm seeing what they're up to. We're interacting in a way.
Yeah.
No interaction. It was just shut down. So as much as, people can like rip on, they'd be like, oh, social media is taking away all of it's these fake connections. I'm like, if it's keeping you in the fucking loop, dude, live for it.
Right.
I was there with a VHS, like one, it was like a TV with a VHS thing in it. And there was one VHS. And I must have fucking watched that thing. I'd watch it, and then I'd rewind it, and I'd watch it again. Ooh. And, dude, I did that for a while. And the craziest thing is, for the absolute life of me, I don't know what the movie is. I don't remember what the movie... And it wasn't, like, oh, it was a foreign film. Like, it was like...
Rookie of the Year.
It was like Beetlejuice. Yeah. But, dude, I don't know.
Wow.
And it was just that kind of, you lose track of time and you lose track of space.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is it. I was like, you're going to die here, so you should kill yourself. Nobody cares about you or knows you're alive.
Yeah.
So I, during the day at work, I rope knot tying was a big thing on the dock because there's just rope. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I was talking to one of the lobstermen. I was like, hey, how do you tie one of those little like... And then there's a loop, and then they used to hang people with it, I think. I don't know what it's called. And he was like, oh, yeah, for sure. And he like taught me how to tie it, and he's like, this is a solid one. That one's not going anywhere.
This will definitely hold up a person. I don't know why that's my metric for weighing things. But
how much do you weigh? Yeah, about that much. Here you go. Like, and he didn't know. He was just what a weirdo. Like, and I was like, oh, perfect. That's what I need.
Cool.
And so made a super sad playlist of like the dark songs that I was listening to at the time. I think it was like the Requiem for a Dream soundtrack song was on there. Just like sad. And I was like, listen to sad music. And I think there was like an old PBR, I think, like just somewhere around. And I was like, cool, drink that. And then I bought a bottle of aspirin. And I was like, it's always in the movies, always pills and like alcohol. Yeah. Aspirin doesn't do anything. If you eat too many aspirin, ironically, it gives you a headache like that. So I just ate a bunch of aspirin and I downed the beer. And there was a stack tank. There was a lower one and an upper one and then a beam. And I threw the rope over the beam and I tied it off and I stepped up to the top thing and I put it on and I stepped off the top beam. And like one of my hands like caught the rope before it fully like cinched up. And so I was just kind of hanging there for a minute. And as I looked over to the door, to this big warehouse, to the door to the shop, I just thought like, did I remember to lock the door? Like, did I?
Oh, no.
Because that would, Oh my God. I was like, if somebody walked in right now,
Yeah.
I would just be so embarrassed.
Right,
like,
right.
I was trying to fix the pipe. Like, I was like, this is like shame was the last thing I was like going to think was like, oh fuck, this would look so silly.
Yeah.
And as it was like cinching up, I was like, I just had this thought. It was like, you, like some otherworldly, this voice was an unfamiliar voice. It was like, you can't do this now. You have like a greater purpose, and you'll never find out what it is if you do this now. And I was like, I can't. And I barely like caught my foot off the side of the thing and like pulled myself, took the rope out, cut the rope down, threw it, made myself threw up the aspirin, which wouldn't have done anything anyway. And then I went home and I stayed in bed for like a month.
Ooh.
I didn't show up to work the next day. I didn't call. I think they just found somebody else to come in for like 1 hour a day to do. They're just hang out there all day. I was like, somebody else to do it. Like the lobster was probably like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if they knew I was still operating out of that place. Like, I didn't see anyone.
Yeah.
Stayed in bed for a month, like played Tony Hawk and like smoking pot. And I was like, you should go do comedy. And I was like, cause you've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And so I knew they did a contest every year. It was called Portland's Funniest Professional Contest. And anyone could sign up. And if you place in the contest, and you can get passed at the club, like that's one way to get in. And so I went in to the guy and I was like, hey, it was getting cold, I want to say like October, November or something. And I went in and I was like, hey, I know you guys do a contest here. I want to sign up for it. He was like, great, give me your number. We'll give you a call. We'll give you a date for the contest. And I was like, cool, let me know. And I go home. I waited by the phone. And nobody called. I went back the next day. And I was like, hey, what the fuck? Nobody called me. And he goes, the contest is in April. You're the only one that signed up. It's in months. We'll let you know. And I was like, oh, you better. And and I signed up for it. I got a date. All my friends and family came out, and then I got second place in the show that I did. And I was passed at the club, like that show.
Yes.
And I was like, cool, I'll keep doing this. But yeah, it was like a dark start to that. And it took a long time and a lot of like therapy to even process that I might have been depressed.
Right.
So I was like, I think I had depression. And they're like, how do you know? And I tell them that story, and she's like, that sounds
depression.
Sounds like depression.
How old were you at that time?
Right before I started doing comedy, so 18, 19.
Wow, yeah, so young. Yeah, that's wild.
I think my first show might have been a few months after I turned 19. That April after my birthday was in March. Yeah.
Wow, it's wild, man. Yeah, it's crazy.
Unreal.
Yeah. And hey,
yeah,
living your best life.
It's crazy.
Your best California life with transcendental meditation and
it's so weird.
Do you ever like? Do your friends from Maine ever like look at you in your life now and they're like, "What the fuck? Like, how did you? You know what I mean? Like,
I remember
because you got this like crazy blue collar background and now you're meditating in L.A. and
no one would have thought. I was doing yoga pretty intense for a few months there too.
Yeah.
A lot of it was like shedding the idea of like what I was supposed to be, or like where I came from, or like people that are like this don't do that. Like people are like, oh, you should check out this yoga thing. I'm like, I back lobsters. Like I don't do yoga. And I'm like, no, they don't do yoga. Also because something that you did doesn't necessarily define like who you are.
Right.
I was like, and also people can change. You can do a different thing. Maybe it's a thing that you like or enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny for me to think about. Like I remember one time I was going to talk about sobriety for this panel thing, and I was talking to a buddy of mine. We were getting excited. A friend was getting married in upstate New York, and it was like all of our high school friends were gonna be like open bar. And I was like, I've been sober for a few years. Like, I'll go, but I'm gonna be sober through it. Right. Like they know that. Like they know, and they saw me drink, so they're like, well, of course you're sober. Like that makes the most sense. But I told my friend, I was like, yeah, let me give you a call back. I'm actually about to go speak on this thing about sobriety. And he goes, you're talking about sobriety? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, why did they ask you? And I was like, a been sober for a little bit. Like, I'm pretty good at it now. He's like, no, but you were like the worst one of us drinking. You're doing that? Like, and that kind of like threw him off. Yeah, I guess it's a little different. He's like, but I've been doing it.
Yeah,
like,
I'm good at this, I swear.
I don't know. It works now. Seems to be going all right. But keep doing it.
Well, you're Dustin David.
That's correct.
And this is a podcast called Sad Dad, and we talk about our dads.
Yeah.
And you have a dad.
I do.
You mentioned him a couple of times.
I do.
And I know I was talking to you about this last night. I mean, obviously, it's a big question. Like, tell me, or a big request, like, tell me about your dad. So I always like to start, like, at the beginning when it comes to the dad stuff. Like, where did your dad grow up?
He's still kind of, in some ways, like a mythological figure to me.
I like this.
Where I have, like, details that I've sort of, like, gleaned from, like, context clues.
Sure.
To the best of my knowledge, she grew up in Portland and Yarmouth, Maine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's a northeastern.
Yeah.
New Englander, huh? Through and through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He grew up there. His mom passed away when he was very young.
Mm-hmm.
I believe from alcoholism.
Oh.
So for the people that think it's like a genetic thing, sometimes, you can either skip generation. It can be. Some people believe it can be passed down like genetically. So,
right. Yeah.
I mean, I am for sure like an alcoholic, something that I identify as.
I get this from Gam Gams.
Even though I don't drink. Like,
right.
Yeah, I've heard maybe one story about her, and it was gnarly.
Oh, wow.
And she passed away when he was very young. So it was mostly his dad that raised him. And yeah, from what he told me, his dad was hard to grow up with. Yeah, ex-military.
Ooh.
Just would, smoke these cigars, kind of do his own thing. So I feel like in a lot of ways, my dad sort of parented himself.
Yeah. How wild too to think that your grandma passed away. I mean, because there's probably like the 60s or something. Like the idea of of a woman dying of alcoholism in the 60s is like, especially at a time when women, there's all these weird like cultural and societal expectations of women. Like, man, she must have really had it bad, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've only heard a few stories, but it was like fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
Wow.
And wow.
Yeah, so I feel like he kind of parent like himself, and also like his younger sister, I think too.
Oh, sure. Was that he had how many siblings did he have? He had
it's weird. He had my Aunt Debbie, who's his sister, and then they kind of had a whole side of the family that I didn't really know existed because I was always so close with my mom's side of the family.
Oh.
Like, we always did stuff with her. It was like my mom and my aunts and my uncle. We'd hang out there, and they had a pool. We'd do summer stuff at birthdays and holidays. We did all the stuff with them.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of awareness that there was a side of my dad's family outside of my aunt.
Oh.
Who, like, we'd see, like, at Christmas, we'd be like, oh, hi. My cousins with them, and we'd hang out. And it wasn't until like my grandfather passed away that I realized I had this whole other side of my family that was this big Jewish family.
Oh,
I
wow.
had no idea.
Yeah.
And it was crazy just seeing and interact. And they were like, "Oh, so sorry to hear." Blah, blah. And I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah. How bizarre.
Yeah.
What do you have any sense of? I mean, obviously, yeah. You said your grandpa's kind of a tough dude. What do you have any sense of what kind of kid he was though? I mean, was he a real? I mean, having a dad that was ex-military, did that kind of trickle down to him? Was he kind of like a dour kid, or?
I mean, I knew he was a big sports guy.
Right.
Very much like identified with sports.
Yeah.
Could do that. Could do it well. Could do it better than other people.
Yeah. I mean, to the point that he's in the newspaper for changing sports.
Just crazy. Like, he's good at everything.
Yeah.
Killer.
Was he? And so was he kind of like a hometown hero type? I mean, is that kind of what I'm gathering from all of this? Or?
Yeah, I think so. Like, cool guy, like doing sports.
Yeah.
And then after high school, he ended up going into the military for a little bit.
Did he? Yeah.
And I think did like military police.
Oh, wow.
And he actually started packing lobsters with me at some point.
Oh, wow.
Just picked up some shifts on the weekend, and it was kind of a chance we got to connect with each other and fish. And he was able to break down some of the things because I had the idea in my head, like, oh, killer sports dude, knew exactly what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
He went into the military. It was all like very conscious, planned out, so on top of shit. And he told me, he's like, yeah, I got straight A's, but I fucking hated school. And I had to work twice as hard as everybody else to get where I was.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, I was good at sports. I could keep doing that. And he was like, and that drive kept me going. He's like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I got out of high school, he's like, me and my buddy bought a mail truck and drove to Florida. I don't know. And I was like, dude, that shit I've done. Like, and it could relate to more like as a human being.
Right.
Like he was a person. He's like, yeah, it was a struggle. It's really hard for me to do that.
Yeah.
And it was just money, military seemed like good money. So I did that.
Sure.
He's like, I picked some exotic locations and they sent me to like Korea. So I was like, I didn't want to go there. It wasn't a place that I picked.
Yeah.
He's like, that's right, needed people. So,
Right. Wow. What?
Yeah.
At what point does he meet your mom?
I actually talked to my mom about that. There's a thing called the Yarmouth Clam Festival, which in Yarmouth, Maine, it's a big fishing town. A lot of people do lobstering. A lot of like shores where people dig for clams, and they have like this big thing. And the clam festival's rides and stuff like that. So like the teenagers go and like smoke pot, like it would too cool to do the thing, and they have like little parties around there. It's a big festival. And I think my mom met him at like a party around the Yarmouth Clam Festival, and then I think took her golfing the next day.
Nice.
It was like
golfing or mini golfing?
My dad's like a real golfer.
Oh, he's like, get out of here with your mini bullshit.
I think he asked my mom to caddy or something, and she was like, all right, fine, like we'll hang out. He's a cool sports guy.
Yeah.
And they got together, hit it off. And
teed it off. Yeah.
Hey. Tee it up, knock him down. I guess they connected over that. And I don't know why, but I think for the longest time I had the idea in my head that like, oh, my mom got pregnant, so they got married, so then they started this family. And in my head, I like psychologically like felt like a hindrance. Sometimes like to my dad, I was like, oh, he was a killer golfer. Like he would have been awesome if he didn't like have me. Like that was an idea that I had. And he showed me, like I saw a picture, dude, this was like 9 years ago. I saw a picture of their wedding and I looked at the date. And they got married like a year before they had me.
Oh,
like
wow.
They were in love. They wanted to be together, and then they had a kid after that.
Right,
like they were together, and I was like, "Oh, that was like a planned thing. Like that was like we're gonna do this, and it's happening. We're together."
But like that's so funny that like, I mean, it's not funny. Maybe it speaks to like some of the stuff you were talking about earlier. But like you like from the very get go, you thought your existence was an inconvenience.
Yeah, I was like, what the? I was like, it wasn't a plan.
Yeah, there's no way they wanted me.
Yeah. Well, my mom was 21 when they had me. I think my dad was like 24 or 25.
Sure.
And I was like, they were kids. Like they didn't. Yeah. And I was like, oh, they fucking knew. Like they had a plan.
Yeah.
They were married. They got together.
Right.
And consciously started this family. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this is just really dumb, but I just really hope that their wedding vows were like golf themed, like Martha, I've wanted you. I would like it to if you were my caddy through life and on the back nine. I just want to chip this shot into your heart right now. I don't know.
We started out in the clubhouse. Here we are on the 18th.
We've made it, baby.
2 under.
Birdie. Yeah, I don't even know what that means. That's fine. That's it. No, yeah. So that's cool. I don't know. That's probably not how their wedding vows were. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I know that my this is a fun story that Short Dad's gonna love this.
Sure.
The night before the wedding, my dad had his bachelor party with his buddies, getting drunk, Yarmouth. He got arrested.
Oh, wow.
So he had to get bailed out of jail to get married.
Nice.
And Yeah, I think he called my mom. And she was like so pissed. She was like, "Call your dad."
Oh yeah.
And his dad, who's like super tough guy, like had to bail him out until they come to the
That's
wedding.
a lot. Yeah. Do you have any sense of what their relationship was like? Like your dad and your grandpa? I mean, did they get along or did they, you know?
Like I just, he was like, it was hard. It was hard to grow up with.
Sure.
I feel like shut down emotionally. I don't know what his situation is. Guy loses his wife, has to raise this thing.
Right.
But
did he ever remarry? Do you know? Did he?
It's either, I didn't know this until I was reading my grandfather's like obituary that they're like, survived his kids. Yeah. And they were saying like survived by his kids, and then his kids were, my dad and then his sister. And I was like, right. Maybe. Yeah. And also his other kids. Oh. So I don't know if he started a family somewhere and then had my dad and his sister. Right. Or had them and then went on after that. Yeah. I think it was before. And then had them from like a second family.
Wow. Yeah.
Which I had no idea. That had to happen.
That's heavy. Yeah. And what was, you mentioned that your dad was really into stand-up comedy. Like, do you know where that came from? Where his love of comedy came from? Was he a funny guy? Like, was your dad cracking jokes? And
yeah, he knew all the jokes.
Or is he? I keep saying... your dad's still around.
He'd hang out with his friends. He'd surround himself with always very funny people. His friends were a fucking riot. Like, I remember every gathering they had, his friends just killers, dude. Just local, like comedic heroes. They're like, we're on stage, just like, boom, drinking joke, boom, off the cuff, bam, bam, bam. One of my dad's funniest friends, guy Doug Sawyer, killer, dude, absolute killer, so
crusher
funny.
At the barbecue, you guys.
He still calls my dad to break his balls. Dude, I was home this summer. My dad called Doug and he was like, "Hey, my kid's doing a show tonight at 8. It was like around noon or something." And he goes, "Sounds great, Dave. Why don't you give me a call 5 minutes before the show?" How the fuck? What is wrong with you? Would you call me when you're there? Let me know he has a show. Thanks for the heads up. How long you known about this? Dude, just like breaking his balls so hard. Such a killer.
That's so funny, man.
And my dad knew all the jokes. Like, he'd watch every comic. So knew how to relay him, and knew how to tell a joke. He was always the one who was like, I got one for you. And so I feel like, in a way, he might have like wanted to like get up and like do comedy. Because he was always the guy with like all these jokes.
Right.
Could like sense something's funny, like had a good sense of it.
Yeah.
And that was like my barometer too. I was like, cool, if I can make my dad laugh. Which, is also something that like I've been working through in therapy. Is like, is doing comedy a thing that you enjoy in a way that you can be of service to society, or are you still just trying to make your dad laugh? Like, is that what this is? Like, are you like, is there a separation?
Right. Are you? Because it's just some weird. You're acting out some form of validation that you're hoping to get. That's interesting.
I think that's why it was tough to like do like the story on the moth.
Oh, interesting.
Because I was like, if they're not laughing, I'm not doing well.
Yeah.
But then didn't even put it together until I'm saying it out loud now. Would he enjoy that? Like an emotional story? Or am I doing it because like, hey, you got to be funny?
Yeah.
Got to keep making your dad laugh. It's like, he's in fucking Maine, man. Like, he lives in Rhode Island with his family now. Dude, he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
You're 35. Like, you can live your own life.
You're okay, yeah.
You can do a serious thing. You can write a thing that's not a comedy.
Yeah. You're fine. Dad's fine. Everybody's fine. Just get on with it. Yeah.
You can do your own thing and exist in this world outside of that.
Right. I had this weird epiphany just the other day. I was driving and it just fucking like hit me like a weird ton of bricks. But like, my dad was always funny, but he was always funniest at like the really scary times. Like, like if we like broke down on the side of the road or just we were in some like scary situation when we were kids, like my dad always had a fucking joke. Like he would like always make, and like I think in my mind at some point like it was always like, well, if dad's making a joke, it can't be that bad. And two, like in my mind I connected like humor to like bravery. Like being brave, like when you need to be brave, you need to be funny, and like that's the time you have to be the funniest, you know. And so like it was a weird thing, like in my mind, I think, where it's like, oh, I want to be brave, so what's the bravest thing I can do? Oh, stand up comedy, like that's where you have to be funny all the time, you know. And that was just something like a weird dad comedy epiphany I had myself recently, where it's like, oh, I'm so insecure. The bravest thing that I can think to do, you know, is stand up, you know. So yeah, I don't know, it's weird. But what? I mean, because you mentioned like just a second ago, he's got his family now. Are your folks still together, or do they?
They divorced when I was in high school. I was a junior, and yeah, they split up. My dad moved out. I think he moved in with my aunt, and then he got for a little bit, and then he got his own place.
Yeah.
And then that's, I think, when he started. I hadn't seen him in a while. He just kind of was doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And we were in high school, and we're like, all right. And
So
see him like occasional weekends and stuff. And then he took the job packing lobsters, and it wasn't the usual situation where it's like, dad's worked at this factory for years. I'm going to go to the factory. That's what we do. It was like I'd been packing lobsters for a long time, and he got the job there after.
Whoa.
So, like, I was his boss.
Whoa, that's
so like
weird.
That was a psycho power dynamic. Day one went mad with power. Like the shop needed to be clean. I was like, Dave, need you to sweep up a little bit. Daddy's got some paperwork to do. And like went fucking around and played solitaire. And then I came down expecting like he'll be like sweeping or something. The shop, like it's a gross shop. There's like algae, like it's outside, there's water.
Yeah.
Dude, the place is spotless. And he goes, done. I was like, son of a bitch. And I go, well, you know, after we clean the shop, we go fishing. And he was like, no, like we're on the clock, we got to work. And I was like, no, like Craig, the boss, bought us fishing poles because there's no work to do. Lobsters are packed. We're good. So that's when we started fishing and like connecting.
That's great, man. How cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Wait, what was the question again?
About your parents like splitting up, but like that was
Well, he told me that he met a girl at work where he worked at LL Bean. They started dating for a little while. They ended up getting remarried, or he got remarried to her, and then they moved to Rhode Island where she's from. So he lived there now, and then I have a half brother and a half sister.
Oh wow!
Where Gunnar was born, I think, like a few months after I moved to LA, and then Joran, his younger sister, was born a few years after that.
Oh wow!
So
is it weird to like? It's almost like you're getting like a weird bird's eye view of like your father and his parenting. Like, is he like a different dad to them than he was to you, or like have you like seen him like parent other children, and like have you gotten anything
I feel kind of distance from the thing because it's like they're kind of in Rhode Island doing their own thing, but yeah, you do get to hang out with them,
right?
And it seems more chill.
Sure.
No, I feel like he's kind of like softened a little bit.
He was so young, 20. He was like 24 when he had you, 25.
I mean, dude, God, he was working at like a beer company at the time, like trying to make it like trying to do that, paying a mortgage, bills, like going to work all the time.
Right.
Like I can't fucking imagine the stress that he was under to keep all the plates spinning.
Right.
And for a lot of the time, I would look back and be like, oh, he was always angry, and I was like, dude, three of the most fucking entitled kids going to one of the greatest fucking school districts in the nation.
Right.
To go there, this great opportunity. And I'm fucking trying to tell jokes.
Yeah.
I'm like doing bits. I'm like, I don't know, fucking didn't go to study hall.
I just want him to like be like coming home from like a really stressful day at work and like see you in that fucking box and your brother on his tricycle. Yeah. And he's like, what the fuck? What are my kids?
Have I done? What?
Why are the kids weird?
Don't have the fare, buddy. Go around again. Come back when you have the fare. Can I help you? Like
just the background losing his mind
Yeah.
about how weird his kids are.
Just doing the best that he can to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of resentment in high school because I was grounded a lot. And that I was so isolated.
Yeah.
And it was yeah, you gotta get good grades so you can hang out with your friends. And I was like, fuck it, I don't care about hanging out with anybody.
Yeah, I just won't have friends.
Yeah,
or
I'll
good
show you in my room, like just alone,
just staring at the ceiling.
No video, no TV, can't do anything. But and then it was like, well, you can't hang out with these bad kids. And I can look back now and go, oh, he's trying to protect me. Like he wanted me to have good grades so I'd be successful.
Yeah.
But like that way didn't work for me that it might have worked for somebody else, where they're like, oh shit, grounded? I don't want to be grounded. I'll do the work. Yeah. And I was like, I'll show you what being grounded's all about. I'll set up shop and grounded. What's up? Like it like didn't know how to, and he's like, I can't. Gotta go to work, dude. I can't help you here.
Yeah, I just can't. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, he was trying to protect me, like wanted to set me up for success.
Sure.
He just kept taking a left turn every time. He was like, no, man, why don't you?
Right.
And every sport that helped him build a sense of, leadership, helped him build a sense of camaraderie.
Yeah.
This is how you make friends. You're a weird kid, so you join a sports team, so you get the friends that come along with the sports team.
Because that's what he did. He was a lonely kid.
And you're part of a team. You know this guy because he's the guy. Right. And then every sport that I picked was an individual sport. I had karate, tennis, golf, anything I could do by myself. Just shooting down every.
What is wrong with this kid?
Man, I'm really trying here. This is what worked for me. From me, why isn't this working?
That's great. But and
be infuriating.
What and so like your relationship with him now is I mean, you guys are in a good spot. You guys.
Yeah.
And
I'd say we are in a good spot now, and I try to show up more. I'm not great because I'm busy. Like I've got a job and I got comedy, but when I get some time at work, I'll like pull away and try to reach out and call. How's it going?
Yeah.
And we, we'll have conversations, and he'll relate to me through like bits and like through comedy.
Yeah.
He'll be like, oh, funny thing happened at work. And I was like, oh, this has always been like our love language is just expressing comedy to one another because that's how we show each other that we can relate. That was our thing that we had in common.
Right.
And I'd say it's good now. I go back, I try to see his kids and his family and spend some time with them while I'm home.
Yeah.
And it's weird being older and like trying to relate to him.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're related, but also I don't know, man. I tell dick jokes at the comedy store. You're playing the cello.
Right.
What is this?
What is this? Yeah. It's so fun. Well, 2 thoughts on that. Because I had a older brother that was like way older than me. Like he was 14 years older than me. And a lot of times, even though he's my sibling, and he's a full sibling, he felt more like an uncle, because he was only like around during like holidays and everything.
That's how I kind of picture my relationship with him.
Yeah. And so, I mean, but it's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? It's just different. And and like you were close with your brother. He's probably close with his sister. It's like, you both had somebody. So
they seem fucking exceptional. I mean, just compared to like me and my brothers, like holy shit. Like
you're just out there like eating dirt.
She's like writing in cursive. Dude, writing in cursive now when the thing that everyone does is texting. Like her handwriting is unbelievable.
That's amazing.
He is a wizard. Like he's doing great in school. He's doing great in sports. Right. Like he's a bigger kid for his side, so like plays sports and then also is excelling at some of like the more difficult instruments. Like I think he's like playing violin and like actually learning the cello. I'm like,
good for him.
What? Yeah. That's like we were like, can't wait to start smoking pot. Take the edge off this existence where we aren't doing that much to begin with, frankly.
Yeah, there's a weird thing with kids now. I mean, they sound like they might be an exception to this, but like I feel like there's so much like content now. I mean, there's a million streaming services and like YouTube and everything. But like all the kids are all kind of into the same stuff still. Like so, it's like I mean, I took my daughter over to a friend's house, and she has 2 kids, and Abby has hung out with these kids all of one time. But they all knew, they were all into the same stuff because it's like Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft, fucking PewDiePie on YouTube, and
they're into the
they do. So it's like, if you can, just as an adult, learn just a few things about all of those things, you can connect to any kid, man. That's my pro tip to anybody who has to interact with a child. It's just read the Wikipedia on Fortnite, and that kid will love you. Yeah.
We did have the best, I think, time that we hung out was I came back the summer of Pokemon Go.
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, I'm playing it a lot, and I was like, oh, this would be exciting to be in Maine and see what kind of Pokemon they have there.
Yeah.
And so I'm hanging out with him, and I'm like, haha, so, what's up? And he's like, huh? And I was like, do you like Pokemon Go? And he was like, you have Pokemon Go? And I was like, yeah, updated my Charizard to the next slide. And he was like, oh my God. He's like catching Pokemon. I'm taking pictures of him with a Pokemon. We had the greatest time.
That's fun, man. That's awesome.
We got to catch all these Pokemon. And he hit me up and be like, did you catch this one yet? And he's like, I think I saw him by my house. And I'm like, you don't have the game. What are you seeing?
That's funny.
Okay.
Dude. Well, this is the part of the show where we bring it in for a landing. I always ask for, I call them dadicdotes, just favorite dad anecdotes. You've already told a bunch of great stories already, but do you feel like you got one in the chamber still about your dad?
Yeah. He would raise his voice every now and then, get pretty loud when he'd be upset about something. It was just kind of like keeping the boiler on it.
Yeah.
And then would sometimes just explode. And it was kind of scary. And we'd be like, oh, but he was also very protective of us. So no one could fuck with us at all.
Yeah.
Because he would just show up and people would be like, okay. Didn't know. Big dude, thick, and could get real loud if he needed to. And so there was me and Derek, and then my younger brother Dylan. Dylan was 5 years younger than Derek. So he was the youngest one.
Gotcha.
So for the longest time, he's known as the golden child. And he was young, and I think he was out with my dad, and they were in the putting green. The putting green was behind the 18th hole, and people were playing golf. And then, so when you hit, over, and there's people there, and you think you're going to hit somebody, you yell 4. You're like, hey, 4. And they hit, and they didn't know it was going to go that far, and it cruised right over the green, and they didn't yell 4. And Dylan's just kind of sitting there, and he's overalls on, and the ball hit the ground and bounced and hit him in the chest. It was just poof, and he sat down. And he's kind of goofy. He was fine. He was poof, poof. And he was like, huh. My dad goes, okay. He picked up his driver. Started walking over the hill. And these guys sorry, man. I was like, you mother. Unleashed on these completely unsuspecting people. Literally was about to murder 2 people on 18. I was quiet day playing golf. And then just everyone's is someone screaming? Just losing his fucking mind on these people.
I like it too because I feel like it was equal parts oh, you just hit my kid, and also equal parts you didn't follow the rules.
Yeah. 2 huge violations in my dad's book. Not happening.
That's great, man.
Oh my God. So it's my favorite. Just the idea of him calmly picking up a driver as if he's about to tee off. And going, okay. Just walks over the hill.
Just up in the distance. Just this man.
Cowering teenagers.
Dustin, you've been so much fun today. If people want more Dustin David in their life, where should they go? Where should they find you?
The best bet, I put all my shows on DustinDavidComedy.com. I'll have all my future shows. There's also, I'm going to be putting links up. Jeez, I probably did that today. There's a couple links to the podcast that part of it, the Improv. Do fact checking and bits for a political comedy podcast with Daryl Hammond, Louis Savatasso, and they have like range of like guests that come on do the show. So that's a lot of fun. So I'll be up there too.
Well, cool. Well, thanks again, Dustin. It's so much fun.
Dave, thanks for having me.
And we're back. Dustin David, he's great. I'm gonna link his website in the show notes if you wanna check him out. Had him up for a couple of shows. He hung out with me for a couple of days, and it's been a blast so far. He's actually still here, and at the time of this recording, so I've had a lot of fun hanging out with him. And then again, you can go to Sad Dad Facebook page if you want to interact with your fellow Sad Dad arenas. Have you watched any good horror movies? I'm still on like a good horror movie kick right now. Oh my God! Have you guys watched The Eyes of My Mother? It's on Netflix. You can check that out. It's one of the most upsetting movies I've seen in a long time. Check that out if you're really into the horror thing. It's not even like a super. I thought it was gonna be like a supernatural like mom ghost thing. No, it's not that at all. It's way worse. And rate and review on iTunes if you could do that. I'd love you forever for that. Sad Dad Patreon. And then what else? I know. If you need to get a hold of me for any reason, there's the Sad Dad Podcast at gmail.com. You can also follow me on all the social medias at Dave Apkarian. And that is it. You animals, you party animals. We'll be back next week. I got a great episode with a very funny comedian named Jenna Cordes, and that gets real too, and it's a lot of fun. So that's it. All right. Adios.